Hi friends, before we start this episode, I just wanted to let you know that here in From Someone Who Gets It, we have raw, vulnerable conversations, and sometimes those conversations can trigger others. I want to let you know that in this season, we touch on suicide, infertility, PTSD, and everything in between. So if those are some subjects that are triggering to you, I just want to let you know that you're heard and you're seen and you're not alone. This podcast is for you, and I hope you join us. Hi everyone, welcome to From Someone Who Gets It, a podcast about life, mental health, and everything in between. I'm your host, Marcela Paguaga, and this season I'll be sitting down with some of my favorite people having raw, vulnerable conversations about goals, dreams, life, and mental health. Every Monday you can find our episodes on the Cultura Talks channel, and I hope you join in. Welcome to From Someone Who Gets It.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for being here. I'm nervous because I feel like from everyone who's been on the pod, you've known me the longest and you know me in a different level. So I want to explain to everybody watching how we met and who you are to me, and then jump in. So this is Jessica Tagle. Jessica was my guidance counselor. And I'm already getting like choked up.
Me too.
She was my guidance counselor in high school, but I feel like she was more than my guidance counselor. The truth is, if it wasn't for this amazing woman right here, I don't think I would be sitting in front of you guys today. So let's start. Before I start crying hysterically, my gosh, let's start. So I think I didn't really meet you until my junior year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were, for sure, either junior or like end of sophomore for sure.
Yeah, end of sophomore going into junior. For those who don't know, I was Matter Academy's princess, okay? It is what it is. I was loved by all administration and they were my best friends. And I used to hang out in the office a lot. And then we just got really close. And every time I had an issue, you were the first one that I ran to. And then ending of 11th grade, for those who don't know, I struggled with my weight my whole life. It was something I struggled with, but it never defined who I was as a person and it was never like in my mind front. Like I was just like, oh, okay, I was heavy, but I had so many other things to offer. And then in 11th grade, if you saw my one person show, you know this story. I got made fun of for the first time for my weight. I was in geography class and there was two guys in back of me and I was wearing a Dorothy outfit because it was homecoming week. And one of the guys says to the other guys, does she think she looks good in that dress? She looks so fat. And I remember that was the first time that I heard someone refer to me in that way. Even though like I knew I was, it's just not something that I like ever cared to talk about. I went to the office and my sister was had office aide.
That's right, office aide.
Yeah. And I looked at her with like tears coming down and I'm like, you have to switch with me. Like, give me your uniform. I can't go back to class with this dress. Long story short, like she gave me her uniform because she's the best big sister in the world. Everyone in the office finds out. Tiger, who was our vice principal, gets these two guys from class. You can hear the screams from him and Coach Eddie in the office, like saying, what are you doing? Why would you say that? But I feel like at that time, the damage was done. And I think after that moment, something happened to my psyche and I said, okay, I need to be thin. That has to be the goal. That has to be the goal. And all of you noticed very quickly the sudden changes in me. And then that's when you and I became very close. Because I would, for some reason, even though an eating disorder is something you should keep very secret and to yourself, it was something that I shared with you so openly.
You absolutely did. And I remember sitting on the opposite side of the desk and feeling like you were the most courageous little thing, because I remember being that girl and not having that courage. So to me, there was this like extreme respect for the girl that just like said it. Like you were just so courageous. And I think that that's what connected me, truthfully. Like I really, like you're saying the story and I'm literally feeling it. I can even smell the office. Like I literally can smell it. I can feel it. There was just something very special about your authenticity. And that became contagious for me. And that was a part in my journey in my own life, like hearing people be courageous enough to be authentic contributed to where I am today, for sure, and still does, right? And so you were young and you know, I think what happened in that moment when those boys did that to you was like suddenly the voices of others became so much more powerful than your own. Until then, you kind of narrated your story from a place of love and support and at home, and then all of a sudden these boys' voice, and I knew exactly what that felt like. It's like all of a sudden all you could ever hear was those words over and over again.
I compare it to like, you know, when you like a kid and you find out Santa Claus isn't real and that like innocent flame like dies. I compare it to like always, no matter what, I always walked in a room feeling so confident and so like I'm in the room. This is who I am. This is who I have to, what I have to offer. And after that day, I could feel that light slowly turning off. It wasn't turned off yet. Funny enough, it wasn't until my came back senior year and I had lost all my weight. And now I started getting attention from all these guys that I had been in school with for 4 years. And one day I was like, wait, I don't get it. Like, I'm the same exact person, except now instead of being a size 14, which there's nothing wrong with that, I'm a size 4. And I just realized how shallow the world that we live in is. And that is when that light totally turned off. And I was like, oh, okay, so I can never gain weight ever, ever, ever again. Because if I do, I'm going to be treated differently. Mm-hmm. And it started with diet pills because, you know, we grew up in the 2000s and that's the diet pills, the crash diets, all of that stuff slowly turns into not eating at all, to like eating like a Ritz cracker and being like, oh, okay, I'm good for the week type of vibe. And days that were really hard, you and I would talk about it and you would give me examples. And I remember, I won't mention her name, but we had another guidance counselor that, oh my gosh, I was like, Marcela, I think about it now. I'm like, I can't believe you said this to this lady. She says to me, oh, because at one point I started touching into like the bulimic side of it, which is what I then got very involved in. And we'll talk about that later. But she told me, you know, that was me in college. And now I have permanent back damage because of the like leaning forward. And I literally looked at this woman in the face and I was like, well, don't worry because I kneel, like, so I won't hurt my back.
I didn't know that.
Oh my God. And like, I guess at that moment she realized like, I'm not going to get through to her. It is what it is. It's her.
Tell
like,
her this, watch your back.
Yeah. Like,
literally.
Yeah. Like, and I'm like, no, I don't care. I'm going to do it. But what's crazy enough is that I didn't hide it from you guys, but it was something that my family didn't know until like years later. As a guidance counselor, and I approached that to you, how do you approach it without me feeling, because I never felt judged from you, which is why I felt like, oh, she is my go-to. Like I can tell her anything and she'll never judge me about it. How did you develop that? And how did you learn like, this is how I have to act with my students to get their trust?
Wow, that's a very good question. So we all have a story. And we all learn from our story, the good and the bad, right? And I think that I come from a place of a lot of judgment in my life growing up. I guess I'll dive in with you here on the eating disorder piece. So I too struggled tremendously with distorted body image and weight. I was also heavy during a time in my life, but I came from a home where that was like a generational thing, and it was frowned upon and judged, and food was like the enemy. So my discourse started very early in life, and I just learned that food was bad and that weight was not acceptable. Like you had to be a certain weight, and that's what it was. And so in that process, that's what led me to get into mental health in the first place, and really, want to study that and become that. I think embracing the authenticity in somebody is step one, right? Making yourself the safe space where there is really no opinion and guidance. A lot of times people think, when you think of therapy or guidance, you think of like telling people what to do, and that is not at all how it works. It's almost like allowing people to tell you where they want to go and to tell you their story, and to simply embrace it as a pillar of just support and strength without necessarily chiming in too deeply, right?
Right.
And I think that that's why, I create that safety, because I know what judgment can do. And I know that judgment can just lead to that external voice that can be forever a battle.
Yeah.
And that can always like quieting that judgment and creating a new dialogue and creating a new like acceptance and normalcy with something like food, which is something you got to eat, right? We all have to eat to survive. If not, we die. But yet, if you're telling me that food is the enemy, how do you do this? Like, how do you balance that out? It's like a forever process, right? And so I think to answer your question, it was my own journey from a very early age to understanding that judgment was simply going to make matters so much worse.
Now, I want to touch a little bit on the whole like food is the enemy thing, because I don't know if it's a Hispanic, household thing, that it was like rice is bad, bread is bad, like all these, that you hear that growing up. And it wasn't until I got with my fiance that he showed me like food is great. Like food is amazing. Like enjoy food. That I've now at the firm age of 33, 34 in a couple weeks, I love food. Yes, there are days that I'm like, I have to eat today, but that gets easier. But what people don't get is, and it's in the 4 agreements, is like your words are so like impeccable. And if I grew up in a household that just acknowledged food as food, where would I be today? If I grew up in a household that my weight wasn't constantly thrown at me, or what I was eating, or put on these crazy diets, where would I be today? And it's part of my journey, and I know that it has made me the woman that I am.
Because you're a beautiful journey in progress.
Because I'm a beautiful journey. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I have a rule, and Eddie and I talk about it all the time. When we have kids, no one is allowed to talk negatively about food, negatively about body. Like a girl or a boy can be so much more than just how they look. And that is something that's going to be so important in my house, because the damage that you do to a young brain when it's a constant, and the thing is, like, you can't blame the people that raise us, right? Because they tried to do the best that they could. Especially for me, I was overweight. So they tried to do all the things that they could do to make me lose weight. But it was something that was, it was from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep. It's what I thought about.
Absolutely.
All the time.
Exhausting.
It was exhausting. Like I would wake up and this is already when I had lost all my weight. I used to body check all the time. I would wake up and the first thing I would do is feel my ribs to see if I can still feel them. Because in my head, if I felt my ribs, that equaled skinny, which equaled success. You know what I mean? So for the longest, it was like, I can't eat this because this is bad. I can't eat this because this is bad. Because that's what we were like taught.
So we're taught, like I said, that food is the enemy. And then we create this discourse and it becomes a daily grind, a daily battle, right? And you said something that's so true. Like you start thinking that being skinny is success. And so when you're skinny, you think you've accomplished what you're supposed to accomplish, but yet all the wounds within are raw as hell. And so they creep back up.
Yep.
And that's where all this vicious cyclical patterns start happening, because you're literally thinking, okay, if I'm skinny, I'm successful. Then why do I feel so sad? Why am I struggling so much? Why are these demons still so freaking loud in my head, right? And that for me was, very clear until I got married. And it's interesting that you say about like with your children, right? Because I am obviously much older than you and I do have 3 amazing children. And I was thinking about this on a run the other day is I think when I got married, I solidified that I needed help. That was like my very first time in my life that I was like, okay, if I'm going to get married, if I'm going to be married and I'm going to have a family, I need to heal the inside. I need to stop thinking that this external person is the answer, because there's so much internal work. And obviously as a clinician, as a therapist, as a counselor, I thought that in the work that I was doing with others, I was going to find my healing without realizing how important it was to dig within me. And then I started that journey and then I became a mom. And motherhood was the greatest thing, but the most difficult thing, because I was relentless on the fact that I never wanted to bring this pattern into these kids' lives. My first child is a boy who's 22, and then I had my little girl, and then I have a boy. And like you said, so food is not an issue. We have Oreos and oranges in the same pantry, and we have a select amount of variety, and we eat when we're hungry and we stop when we're full. And that's the dialogue at home. Very clear. They're very aware of my journey, and I want to touch that because I realized that I didn't want this trauma, but here's what I'm going to say. So for the first 10 years of my family's life, I was very quiet on my healing and on my journey with my eating disorder and my distorted process with body image. But my home was under construction, and we had to move back to my original home with my family, with my parents, with my children. And what I had tried so hard to keep quiet came to life. There was a lot of conversations about dieting, about food, unhealthy patterns, a lot of what I considered to be kind of abusive conversations about it. And that was shocking to my children. And even though at the time it felt chaotic and it felt debilitating and painful, I realized that was the beginning of my true healing. Because now there was nothing to hide. And now my imperfection and my story gave them the opportunity to know that I'm a safe place to be true. And even though it was painful to go back to my home and retouch those wounds, and even though I asked that these things not be touched upon, they were.
Right.
And I think it was pivotal because it gave me the safe opportunity to then be truthful to them, share my imperfections with them, and allow them to understand that we all struggle and that we all have a story.
Yep.
And that is where I found the courage to start building this movement that I have, which we'll talk about, and open myself to the reality that my healing is not finite, that it's forever, that food talk is not okay with me. I don't want to know if you fasted for 27 hours. It doesn't go well with me. Yeah. I don't want to know what you ate or how many calories you ate. That also doesn't go well with me. And I am okay to tell you that.
Yeah.
Because my darkest days were hard as hell. And people ask me all the time, like, but you bring such a peaceful spirit. You bring such a place of like healing to the world. And I always say that healing is my grind. And that it feels like, yes, I bring that, but it's because when the pain becomes so unbearable, the process of healing, which can also be more painful, is bearable.
Yeah.
So when I reached a position in my life where it was either live or die, I knew that I wanted to live beyond this reality and this truth of mine, but with a different light. I wanted to recreate a narrative of healing, knowing that it wasn't a diet, that it wasn't a number, and it's not finite. It's forever.
Yeah.
My process is forever. I'm never going to reach a place where these dialogues are not going to be something that I have to pull away. I'm never going to reach a place where, if I hear somebody get fat shamed, that I'm not going to jump in and be like, this does not happen in my presence. Like, these are things we don't talk about. We honor our bodies. They are our gift, and we have to love it with the way that we are. With my daughter's in the arts. She's on stage all day, all the time. She's a beautiful girl with the most gorgeous Latina body. And I always tell her, like, this is your gift. But honor it, love it, embrace it. Like,
and I want to tell you, I've never met someone with the confidence and just the like, she knows who she is, like Bella. Like, I taught her for like and not for a long time, I think a month. And I looked at her and first of all, she's going places and more. She's gonna move like mountains. But it's not, yes, because she's talented, but it's not just that. She has this like contagious thing that you can't help but feel like a badass when you're next to her, because you're like, oh, thanks for that. Like, she's incredible, and it shows to who you are as a mom. Like,
Thank you. Yeah, they are definitely my husband and my kids. We call ourselves our circle, right? Aww. And like, that's the inspiration. That's the fuel that led me to be where I am today, to do all the work, to continue to do the work, to create this movement. And you said, yeah, I feel that I have 3 very talented children in their own crafts. But I always, since very early on in their journeys, remind them you're a human with a craft. The craft is not what you are, right? It's just like weight.
Yeah.
You're a human that has a weight, but you're not your weight, right? You are the human. I'm all about like honoring the humans and being connected to people and letting people understand like, you're enough today. Like, how do you reach a place in our lives where it isn't like, I missed so many events and so many things because I wasn't the perfect weight, or no, I'm not going to that party because I don't fit into the dress, or no, I would come up with a million excuses to not part, right?
Yes.
But yet now it's like, we're enough today. And if there's things about yourself that you want to better, or that's fine. That's part of your journey. But today, in this very moment, you are sitting in your enoughness.
Yeah.
And there is nothing that has to change. It's digging into that place and bringing it to the surface, right? And that's so important to me, because I see that so many people are out for the outcome and like I have to look a certain way, social media, the limelight, the cameras, the just all of it. For people like us, that can be very intimidating, right?
It's I want to dive in more into like the eating disorder thing, because I think it's a topic that we hear a lot about, but you hear, when we talked about it a little bit outside, you hear about like the healing part of the eating disorder. I'm like, oh, I'm healed. I struggled with this, but now I'm like, good. Those are the stories you hear, which are amazing. Those are amazing stories, but you don't hear what really happens. I think you hear eating disorder and you're like, okay, you choose to have that. Let me make one thing very, very clear for anyone out there who doesn't really know anything about eating disorders, or you might know someone who has an eating disorder. It is not a choice.
Absolutely not.
It is not a choice. It is actually one of the hardest disorders that I think, and I've dealt with depression, I deal with OCD, I deal with anxiety, and my eating disorder, I think was one of the hardest things that I've had to overcome and still overcome. Someone who has an eating disorder
will forever have
something. It's little things. I'll give you a perfect example. I really wanted to wear the sweater today. I wanted to wear it because it's your brand. I wanted to show.
Thank you.
But I had baggy jeans on too. So it's like baggy jeans, baggy sweater. You can't really see my body. You can't. That's what I was thinking about this morning. And I said to myself, Marcela, first of all, you're going to sit down and you're probably going to talk about eating disorder stuff. And you're going to talk about body dysmorphia and all of this stuff. And you're giving yourself a hard time because you're wearing a sweater and baggy jeans. Like, snap out of it. But it's this we constantly have
That's the grit, right? So the grit is the revamping of the conversation. But the conversation's always going to exist.
Right, because the conversation, like, I would have never acted that 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I, first of all, would have never worn baggy, like just little things like that. Yesterday, I was really hungry before the show, and I realized I hadn't eaten anything. And I'm like, girl, your wedding's coming up. And, excuse me, your wedding's coming up? You got to do 5 shows, like, right now. Go and get a slice of pizza. I had a couple bites of pizza because that's what I was craving and that's what I wanted. But in my eating disorder days, I would have never done that. I would have starved myself. My eating disorder changed with the years. When I first started, it was more of a body dysmorphia thing. Then it became I didn't eat. So my whole senior year, I just didn't eat any. Like, I would eat like Ritz crackers, Special K bars. And if I was like, oh, it's a heavy week, I would have some macaroni and cheese and I was done for the week. Then when I got into college, I went to an art school and I realized I cannot do my craft and not eat. So that's when I learned about purging. And it became something, and I've never really talked about this publicly, but it became something that I guess took the anxiety of food away. I can eat, fuel because I guess I thought if it entered my body, it gave me the fuel and I can just throw it up. But it's like, you don't think.
Well, it's because it's so emotional that you lose your logic.
Yeah, your logic
you're so caught up
Yeah.
on just simply what is happening out here
Yeah.
that you forget logic. It's very illogical.
So my entire college years, I purged, and I was super heavy with diet pills. And which I think also people think, oh, if you have an eating disorder, you're either bulimic, anorexic, or you have a binge eating disorder. No, it's very complicated. There's body dysmorphia. There's an eating disorder is like, you're always like, what's the next diet trend? And I'm sorry, but it's part of it. It's like something that happens to your brain. And my bulimia went from purging like once a week to purging probably 6 to 10 times a day. I would purge water. I was terrified of anything entering my body. And then I got really depressed because I was in a relationship I didn't want to be in. Things were happening in my world that were just chaotic. And the thing that I had full control of was my eating disorder. Like, full control. Not realizing that it had full control of me.
Exactly what I was going to say.
I thought, oh, I'm the one that chooses if I want to throw up my lunch. I'm the one that chooses this week we're not going to eat. Right. And it wasn't. It's this voice, and I read this book once, and the book refers to the voice as Ed. So that's what I've always referred to the eating disorder voice, Ed. And it took me a while to realize, oh, hey, this is not you at all. And this is something that literally takes over you. I got to the point, it was like 2016, that my eating disorder was so bad, but no one knew and like anything about it, which kind of like is crazy to me. I would eat dinner and I would say, oh, I have to go shower. And that's when I would do what I had to do. Or if I was somewhere, I would say, oh my God, I have to go and take a phone call. And I was really like in the like bathroom doing what I like. It became everything to me. Everything to me. Because I thought I had control, because I looked incredible. And every time someone commented on how amazing I looked, oh my God.
I know.
It was even worse.
I know.
It was even worse.
Yeah, my journey was a little bit different. So I was a gymnast growing up and really big into cheerleading and gymnastics. And I got really stocky in gymnastics. And I will never forget this. I was probably, I don't know, 10. I went through puberty very early on. So there was a mix of like starting to become a woman and my gymnastics kind of body started happening. And my mom pulled me out of gymnastics so that I wouldn't develop this body of a gymnast. And it was like, I loved gymnastics. And that was the first indication that body was everything. And that the way I looked really mattered enough to take me out of something that I absolutely loved.
Yeah.
And that dialogue was pretty much consistent. Obviously, I was in gymnastics 5 days a week, and all of a sudden this was taken from me, and I was in the middle of puberty, so I gained weight. And I got chubby. Obviously, I'm a little person. I'm very short, so I got, heavier than I am, obviously, today, just like a heavier girl. And I learned that was disgusting, that nobody would ever love me. Very clear memory. I was 15. It was my 15th birthday. And by the way, to the world, I had the perfect life. The perfect life. I lived in a beautiful home. I had everything you could ever, think of. My dad was a successful man. We had everybody was married. I had a beautiful, amazing brother who is my best friend today. And I was a disaster. I was turning 15 and my parents got me this limo with this driver that used to drive my dad. I'll never forget him. And I was getting ready in this beautiful room with this beautiful mirror. And my mother walked in and she looked at me and she said, "You should feel embarrassed. All the girls out there look amazing. And look at you." And I remember crying in the mirror and being like, how do I go back out there?
Yeah.
Like, it's my birthday. I'm not good enough. And I got in the limo. And all I thought the whole night, there's pictures. I remember so clearly we went to the Grove. There was a Fuddruckers on the second floor of the Grove. And I remember we took a picture there of all the girls. And all I could think about was, you're not enough. Nobody will love you. You're disgusting. This weight. And that just led me to a massive binge eating process. Because I would never eat in front of my family. And I couldn't, like my mom really, and this is stuff that we've processed and done a lot of therapy with, and we're very open about it. But I would not eat. She would go to school and stand outside the cafeteria to make sure I wasn't eating anything that I wasn't supposed to. And so imagine, I had a paranoia, but I was starving.
Yeah.
So all throughout freshman and sophomore year of high school, I just was a massive binge eater, very depressed, very closed up. I was a cheerleader, but hated every second of it because of how I looked in everything. And then junior year, I got into restriction, a lot of food restriction. So I would go daily for 2 years probably, and the only thing I would eat was a bagel and Sunkist all day and all night. That was it. That was my meal. That was my meal of choice. And like you, I thought I had found the answer.
Yeah.
Because then I started to lose weight. And then all of a sudden I went to college, and I will never forget this. I've told my family this story, my children. I was at FIU, and I got big into running. Running is a big healing component for me, and we'll talk about that. But I was at FIU, still very like unclear internally, but I looked, I guess, good. And a guy that I had seen periodically on campus and I thought was very good looking, left me a note on my car. I never responded to it or anything.
Right.
But that was pivotal. Because all of a sudden, this good looking man saw something in me. Didn't know me, right? Because I didn't put any value to who I was. It was all about what I looked like.
Right.
And that continued to feed that dialogue
Yep.
of it's all about what's happening.
Yep.
Proceed, fast forward. My first job out of college was at the City of Miami Police Department.
Okay.
And that is a fully male dominated place. And I got so much attention. I was like the young girl. I was 21, just graduated from college. And in my innocence, like I would go to the gym there but what was happening was just fueling the disorder and the disordered thought processes. And oh my God, like they think I'm hot. And this has to stay.
Yeah.
And who cares who I am inside? Like, even though mental health has always been my passion, and I went back, to study it, and obviously I spent 8 years of my life studying it, but I always thought it was mental health for the other person. Mm-hmm. Like I was going to help everybody around me because I was good.
Yeah.
Because I had now like started this restriction, concept, and I would run and I would control what I ate. But when I go back and I look at pictures of that era in my life, all I see is an empty, sad girl turning into an empty, sad woman that was screaming in silence.
I have one picture that I look at every now and then. And at that moment, I thought I looked amazing. Inside, I was a disaster. I hated my life. I hated waking up every single day, but at least I looked really good. And I remember now I look at those pictures and I think to myself, my God, I missed out on so many things. I made situations worse because of the way that I used to speak to myself, the way that the disorder, and because it's like, I think of it now and I'm like, it wasn't me. It wasn't me speaking like that to myself. But I've missed out, like you said, I've missed out on parties. I've missed, not so long ago, 2021, I think, the year after COVID, I was a hermit. I missed people's, I think my aunt's like 50th birthday that she had, the same family had a huge Halloween party, didn't go. Like I miss big events that I've never missed because I could not fathom people seeing me with like heavier. Which, is there anything wrong with it? No. That was the season that I was in and it was okay.
I remember my family, we're Cuban, but I have family in Puerto Rico who I adore. And if it was an era in my life where I was a little bit heavier than another, I would get so nervous about getting there and somebody noticing and being like, oh, she's gained weight, or, oh, because I always thought that was what and nobody was paying attention to that. It's just that's what I grew up thinking, is that everybody was only seeing my external self. Yeah. Right. And like I said, then I got married, then I met my husband. Let me fast forward there for a second. I worked for the city. All of that was like and then I met my husband, and he was so curious on who this woman was inside. Like even on the first night that we were out partying, he wanted so bad to get to know what was going on inside. Yeah. And that for me was like, what?
That was Eddie too.
Like, you don't really care what's happening out here. Like, you're not really like that. Like, yeah, I think he was attracted to me, but there was such a high level of curiosity that was so intriguing to me.
Yeah.
And I think that is where I was like, okay, I should probably start to find help. And I should probably start to get as curious as he is about me, about myself. And that's where my journey like just started to slowly shift. And then, like I said, when I had my children, it was like, and then moving back into my parents' home, it was like, okay, wait, I'm not really that healed because all of this is taking over again.
Yeah.
And I want, I remember like thinking trips. I could not stand vacations.
Oh my God.
Because the thought of the lack of control I would have for what we ate, or like buffet tables for me are like the enemy.
God, the enemy.
Right. So like my friends that love me know, like when we have parties and stuff, if there's a buffet table, like I serve myself a plate. I don't pick. You'll never, ever, ever see me because those are big triggers for me.
Yeah, me too.
Right. So everybody laughs, but I'm like, okay, it's my turn. I'm eating, right?
Yeah.
And I grab my plate and I love to eat like you.
Yeah.
But it's like my moment. And I don't believe in eating when you're standing up. Those are rules that I have because they work for me.
Yeah.
Like I honor myself when I eat and I sit down and I choose my meal and I enjoy it, whatever that may be.
I want to talk about triggers and boundaries really quick before we continue, because it took me a long time to tell people like, hey, sorry, like, and now sin pena. Someone starts, oh my God, and tomorrow I have to start a diet. Hey, I don't talk,
sure.
I don't use the language. Like, sorry, I don't talk like that. Hey, I don't count calories. Hey, I don't do this. Hey, please don't. There's no scales in my house. If I go to the doctor and they have to weigh me, I tell them, hey, please don't tell me my weight. You can weigh me, just like keep it to yourself. I'm very strict with my boundaries because I know how hard my triggers are. And I just don't want to have to like...
Absolutely.
And there's sometimes that I like...
And that's where the control really has to come in. It isn't in what you eat or how much you eat. It's in what you allow in, because you have to protect yourself, right? And you have to honor yourself and love yourself enough to know like, that's not good for me.
Right.
That's going to take me down a place that I don't, not even for 24 hours, I don't want it. I don't want the dialogue. I've had to fight that dialogue for so many years in my life that now like there's a level of honor that I must keep at the forefront.
Yep.
And so if it's going to invade that space, I'm gonna let you know that we're not doing it. Like I can't, because it's and like I said, I feel like there's so much value in those boundaries and in understanding like this is a trigger and I'm not gonna allow you to violate it. And I'm gonna share something with you that is coming to my brain. I think it's very relevant. Like how I knew I healed was actually last year.
Okay.
You know, I had already started the movement. I had already been extremely authentic in my home and in my circle, done a ton of work with myself. And so I had an emergency surgery. Last January, I had a intestinal obstruction, which is very serious, life-threatening, overnight kind of situation. Operated. I was very lucky to be alive. And they had to put me on this medication to prevent it from happening again that made me gain like 10 pounds in 2 months, sorry. And there was nothing I could do about it. Yeah. It was temporary. I eventually fought and was able to get off, and I was able to they were able to do a new plan for me. But how I knew I healed is that even with those additional sudden onset of 10 pounds, I didn't miss an event. I worked out my normal self, which usually that would have never happened because that's a complete opportunity for spiraling and sabotaging. I still loved myself. And I processed knowing that it was a trigger, the extra uncontrollable weight, because it's not like I was doing something different and gaining the weight. No, it was coming on without any control, but I was still able to honor myself through the process. And that's how I knew like I'm in a place of evolutionary healing that I will forever be a part of, but I've gotten here.
Yeah.
I am now in a stage of my healing that no matter what is going on and no matter what happens, I'm still loving myself.
Yeah.
And I think that that's essential. Like that, the self-love and the act of self-love has to be at the forefront of this journey because the dialogue has been self-hatred for so long that there's no space in between. Like it's relentless.
Yeah, no. And I think if you're watching and you're listening and you're struggling, or you know someone who struggles with an eating disorder, I feel like the disorder also feeds on secrecy and it being such a secret. So if it's something that you're struggling with, just talk. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to be ashamed of. It is a disorder that if you stay quiet and you just let it live in you, it will eat you alive. And I mean, some of my darkest days were because of my eating disorder, sure. which is why you can't use certain words around me. You can't do certain things. If I'll never forget, I was in CVS the other day and there was this little girl, must have been 5 years old, super cute with her mom. We were in line to pay in CVS. There was this old lady in front of me and she was in back of the little girl. And the little girl grabs the chocolate and tells her mom, "Mom, can I get the chocolate?" This old hag tells her in Spanish, she says, "You're not going to want to eat chocolate. Look how beautiful you are if you eat chocolate." First of all,
I get the goosebumps.
I literally, I don't know what got over me. I stopped her and I said, "Excuse me, you have no idea who this little girl is. You will not put into her mind that she can't eat a bar of chocolate because that's going to make her ugly. Absolutely not. No, don't ever speak like, oh my God." And I looked at the little girl. I'm like, "You eat that chocolate, girl. You like it?" And I even grabbed the chocolate bar and I was like, "I'm going to eat a chocolate too."
So I use the analogy of M&Ms a lot. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I feel like they're very colorful and people like them a lot, right? And I think when you tell someone you can't eat the M&Ms, you can't eat the M&Ms, it creates curiosity on the M&M. And it creates, especially for children, right? And so now when they get the bag of M&Ms, they eat it in literally desperation because it's like the drug. It's like you're not supposed to. Whereas if you have a bag of M&Ms at home, how delicious. Put it in the cold and grab 3 M&Ms. You don't have to eat the whole bag because there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah. It's literally just a little touch of pleasure. Why not?
Yeah.
So I always say, like, with people that come to me and talk to me, because I do help people that are going through the journey, I always say, buy the M&Ms. It's okay.
It's funny you say that. I have a pack of cookie dough in my refrigerator, which is not, I would never have it before. And every now and then I'll go and take a piece of cookie dough and eat the cookie dough. And I'm like, "Oh, today I wanted a cookie." Well, or today I wanted cookie dough.
You're so funny how you're saying cookie dough. A good friend of mine, was my birthday in January. And a friend of mine came and brought me like a basket of all the things Jess loves. And she bought me 2 little Haagen-Dazs cookie dough ice cream, little containers. And like 4 days later, I'm like, "Man, I would love something sweet today." I had forgotten that the ice cream was there. That is a big step.
That is a huge...
Because for so many years, the ice cream would have been screaming in my ear.
The food noise.
Oh my gosh. And that noise and how it's negative. But I'm hungry and I want to eat something and you're not supposed to eat. And we're now like, I was on a walk and talk with a very good friend who I love dearly. And I don't know why the topic of rice came up. And I'm like, dude, I sit and eat my fucking rice all the time. And I don't think that I have a weight issue. Yes. Like, what is it? Like, why are we making people think that rice is like the worst thing in the world? Eat your fucking rice.
Eat your fucking rice.
I literally sit down with my chicken and rice and broth. I love like mixing that shit. And I get my brown rice or my white rice. Sometimes it's jasmine rice, which I love. And I'm like, this shit is delicious. Why are we restricting this from our dialogue? I don't get it. Because I don't know, but I don't have a scale either. And I will never, I don't weigh I don't believe in that. Like, who cares, right? It's not going to do anything to me one way or another. But like, I work out relentlessly because I love my body and I love myself. But like, I eat whatever the fuck I'm in the mood to eat. If I'm in the mood to eat a piece of chicken today, then that's what but if I feel like going to McDonald's and eating a burger, well, that's what I eat. Like, why the hell not? Why are we told our whole lives like this is not to be? Like, that's where the problems lie, is in the misinterpretation of information. Like, why are we telling young kids at such a young age, this is good, this is bad? Like, bullshit. You love the McDonald's burger. Like, why are you doing this?
Exactly.
If you make it all okay, it's not even a conversation. It's not even a conversation. Yep. It is literally unnecessary. And so, to me, it's about fueling the joy, whatever that may look like. And it's okay and nothing will change. I see it. We go, if you're in a group of people and you just sit back, the people that have a healthy relationship with food, with themselves, with their body, they can go, like I said, serve a plate, grab a bite. The people that have spent their life restricting and not doing the work, and it's like the food is, it's that food dialogue that's screaming at, and then you binge and then you fall.
Yeah.
Why can't we learn to just be in the middle?
Yeah.
Why can't we learn to embrace and accept and move past versus I either got to be, restricting and dieting and not eating a single thing, or fuck it, I'm binging for, 5 days. And then this is where we get such unhealthy patterns.
I feel like when I started realizing, because I don't feel like I'm totally healed. Yeah.
But remember, healing it's not finite.
Right.
You are healed because you are healing.
Yeah.
And when you are healing, you are healed.
Yeah.
That's the process. It's the awareness. It's the application of the things you've learned. It's knowing those limitations, but choosing to live beyond them.
Yeah. I knew that I started when I realized, food is food. And when I would like go out with people and enjoy eating, or I would look forward to like having a meal with Eddie, because it wasn't that I was just eating. It was like we were sharing in that moment and what this meal was, and learning that food was actually good and it's okay. And you could like food and that's okay. When that dialogue started happening, and when oh my God, I really want a Coke and fries today. Let's go get a Coke and fries. Like when that started happening, that's when I was like, oh. And when I started waking up in the morning and not thinking, oh my God, what am I going to eat today? What am I not going to eat? That's when I was like, okay, girl, you're on the way. I'm not going to say I'm perfect. There are days
Absolutely not. They're forever going to be the dialogues and the things that we're going to have to know to keep away and to quiet down. But it's in the awareness that they exist and not acting on them, right? It's acting on the good dialogue, right? And the good side of the
your
brain.
Dialogue,
right, your person, right?
You.
Not that dominant discourse that you once learned that gave you all these like very strange, messaging that then you internalized and created and then lived in with this awful disorder. That will never go away.
Yeah.
But you learn to live beyond its existence.
Yeah.
You don't get paralyzed in it. You know what I mean?
And you have people around you also that I think that's also really important.
Oh, for sure.
It's funny, my friend Eileen, she learned very early on that saying to me, oh my God, you look incredible. You've lost so much weight is a trigger for, as much as thank you. Yes, great. And if I probably look really good, it's because I feel really good inside. That's why I'm looking that great. And she's made it a point to not say that to me. The other day we were at an event and someone said that to me and she's like, yeah, you do look really good, but I didn't want to say anything because I know how you get. And I'm like, thank you. I appreciate it.
And it's true because for so long I didn't want to be seen as who I was on the outside. I really wanted people to become curious on what I am on the inside, because that's really where the work has been. Right. So like I've worked so hard on who I am internally as a human being that that's what I want to shine. Right. Yeah. So obviously for me, that external identification of, damn, like what, you're how old? How many kids? Like, oh my God, I honor it and I'm grateful for it, but it definitely triggers a little.
Yes.
And you'll never hear me tell somebody that they look thin or that they look good, or even if like I have friends that maybe, are changing their bodies or whatever, because that's not where my importance lies. I'm more about like, recognizing their character and showing them gratitude for the people that they are, because that's where I want the importance to lie for me. Right. That's kind of like,
and it's not a bad, and people don't, because I don't want people watching and be like, oh my God, it's not a bad thing. It's just how that brain works. The other day, someone saw me and he was like, oh my God, you've lost so much weight. Like, oh my God, you're so tiny. I went home and I was like, okay, like I literally saw this guy a couple months ago. Like, what did I look like before? Like, what is happening? Like, and then and I had to tell myself, Marcela, take a step back, relax. Like, you're fine. Everything is fine.
And that's a good point, Marcela, because I think that it's also our growth in knowing like not to personalize or not to take it somewhere. And sometimes when I catch myself where that dialogue starts to get where it shouldn't go, that's where the tools come in. And it's almost like, okay, let me start journaling this. Let me process this, because the reality is that the intention wasn't to get me to go there, but that's just the reactivity that we're used to because of what we've been through, right? But at least within my circle and the people that I love, like, it's just not talked about.
Yep, same.
I don't want it to be, and I'm grateful to be in a space where I can say it.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, it's just not done. You know, and my children know that we respect people's bodies and that everybody looks different, and we all bring something very unique and different, and we gotta love people that way, right? And that for me is big, important messaging, because even if I'm only one human and you're only one human, but if we can help, like you said, to not pass this down to another generation, then we've done a little bit of a job, right? And that for me is an essential component.
Same.
You know, is I don't want this to trickle into the next
Yeah.
generation, for sure.
I want to move into WWTF and explain what that is to everyone and how it started, all of the above.
Oh,
I'm
this
wearing
is so
merch
exciting.
today.
You
Wait,
are?
I'm gonna hold on, because the back is like amazing. Look at that. Look how beautiful. This is
Straighten it. Straighten it.
Hold on. Thank you, Junior.
Perfect.
So she is a beautiful journey in progress. So I think it's appropriate for sure.
This is one of my favorite. Like, I live in this one and the white one. I live in it. It's like my favorite.
That makes me very happy.
So tell us.
Why wait till Friday? So I would say about 10 years ago, I realized that, myself included, I've been a very privileged woman in working with so many humans, right? People come to me with so much courage to share their stories. And I realized that everybody wants to feel joy, but what do we do daily to fuel the joy within us? And so about 10 years ago, one night, I realized that this was a reality and that it was kind of universal, and that I myself too wanted to bring joy into the core of my life. And so I named it Why Wait Till Friday, because I say that we wait till Friday to find time to fuel our joy.
Yeah.
And then Friday leaves and we didn't do it. And then it's Saturday, and then it's Sunday, and then everybody dreads Monday. But how many Fridays are there in a year? And how much are we really like fueling the joy that I believe we own? So from that thought, I obviously created the logo, created the name, but it was silent because, like our eating disorder, I was very afraid for the world to hear this and judge it. Or will it be taken? How will it be taken?
Yeah.
How do I tell the world that I have this idea of why wait till Friday, right? And so I very quietly began to journal a life where why wait till Friday was my mantra. And I have tons of literature. There is a book in the making, and it worked. And I started to understand that feelings are emotions in motion, but joy is a fundamental value that we own. And that people didn't need to go out and find joy based on what was happening. They just needed to quiet down the noise and allow joy to step in. Because I truly believe that we own our joy in the in-between, which is right here in our core. But we silence it and we ignore it, so it dies. But it's there. And I feel like happiness and anger and frustration, excitement, these are feelings that with time just travel. Joy can be permanent no matter what is happening externally in our lives. And so I started to find what I now call the middle moments, which is the in-between, very simplistic times of the week or of life where something good or something that was fueling my joy was happening, but now I was documenting it. And now I was actually paying attention. And I was making sure that every day at some point there was a middle moment that I noted and that I was fueling instead of waiting till Friday. So I started using the why wait to celebrate, why wait till Friday. I started honoring those middle moments as a mom, and I call them moments. Now we're developing something called a me-ment, which is your moment, a moment with yourself. But all of it are identified as moments to fuel our joy. So fast forward, I lived this movement. I came up with all of this concept, and I was having a courageous conversation with somebody about probably 2 years ago, who was really truthful and authentic with me. She's in the marketing and advertisement world. And I looked at her and I honored her. I was like, my God, like, you barely know me, but you're giving me like all this dig deep stuff about yourself. And I'm like, you're so courageous. It's like the little girl like you were that came in my office and shared. And I said, you know what? I'm going to share something about me. I came up with this idea and I have it in a drawer and I write about it every day. And I've been living it, and it's called Why Wait Till Friday. And she was like, what? That's brilliant. What do you mean, why wait till Friday? Like, that is so catchy. And I was like, so taken back. I'm like, really? She's like, that's a movement. Let's do it. Hire me. And that's how I got the courage to come and bring it to the world. And so here we are. We're a brand. We're a movement. I do public speaking engagements. Yeah. We have a lot of the merch stuff. I'm writing.
We have one.
Yes.
I'm going to open it.
Absolutely.
You can.
So we basically, the idea is to spread this concept that we don't have to wait till Friday to honor ourselves and fuel our joy. That we own our joy, that it lies in the simplistic in between, and that we need to just learn to document it and live in it. So that's our joy journal.
Today I choose joy. Wait, I love this.
So that is a space for you to include daily at the end of your day, something that fueled your joy. So, when we think of journaling, we think of the heavy, right? So right. I journal every day. I've been journaling for many, many, many years, and it's definitely been a part of my healing. But it's all like very much like heavy and thoughts, and I put a lot into it. But this is a place to document, like an album, the one moment throughout the day that fueled your joy. Because if not, it happens, we didn't pay attention,
right?
And we wait. So like you're getting ready for your wedding, right? And how much time do you spend like, oh my God, the day of the wedding. So it all passes, and then the wedding comes and it's gone. And the idea is to honor the journey to get there.
Yep.
It's to the in between, because truly, like, how much of our story lies in the outcome?
Right.
Very little. Like, how much of the story lies in the party? How much of the story lies in, the graduation or the big grandiose events in our lives? Not many. All of it lies in the simplistic in between. But if the only time that we fuel our joy is in the outcome or in the big party or in the end, are we really supposed, like, it doesn't add up. You're not going to feel joy if you don't feel it. So the movement is about that in between. It's about honoring the middle, the simplistic. So our motto is, we keep it simple, we stay intentional, and we're consistent. And that's just the daily grind to live the movement, which is Why Wait Till Friday.
We were talking a little bit about yellow.
Yes.
Because I love the color yellow. Reminds me of my grandfather. It's a color that you'll always see something of yellow in anything I do. And then you told me that you love yellow. So I wanted you to tell them.
So I feel like when you think of joy, like if you think of the word enjoy, joy is in enjoy, right? So I spell it E-N, capital J-O-Y.
Ooh.
But when I think of enjoy, I always think of yellow. I don't know why I affiliate it with yellow.
I think for some reason the sun
yellow,
like it's just
like bright. Yes, right. So it's like a light in the midst of darkness, right? It no matter what's happening in life, the sun rises and it sets.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with our joy, right? If we feel it daily, it's going to be there every day, no matter what's happening. And so the concept of the yellow at Why Wait Till Friday is to find the yellow. And what that means is that when things get heavy, when things get noisy in our lives, when things get chaotic, stop and find something yellow. And that could be your moment of joy. Connect with it, let it sit, document it, take a picture of it. The other day I was on a very heavy workout. As far as when I say heavy, it's not that I was working out very heavy, it's that my mind was very heavy.
Yeah.
And I process a lot of my mindset and my journey internally through my workouts. And I don't know, I was asking the universe to like quiet me. And all of a sudden I walk over this plastic and it's an orange peel that had dried out and it was yellow. And I stopped and I took a minute. I took a picture of it and I sat with it for a second. All it takes is a second.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is my joy. This is my moment. My joy is here. I'm feeling you. I'm fueling you. The universe gave me my yellow, but you've got to pay attention.
Yeah.
Sometimes the goodness in our lives is right in front of us and the noise can be so heavy that we miss it.
And sometimes we forget that we are living the life that we prayed for years ago.
That is absolutely right.
And I have to remind myself of that sometimes, of like, hey, it's chaotic, but you prayed for all of this.
You know, it's funny you say that because I definitely prayed for my life that I live today. But I think a big part of the journey for me and why I wait till Friday and living the movement is transitioning from existing to living. So I feel that for many years in my life, I existed in the world that was supposed to be, but I didn't own the life that was mine. It was like I was living what, you know, all the things, the milestones or whatever the hell you want to call them, which I don't believe in any of that bullshit. But you know, I had all the stuff, and I had done all the things, but I wasn't really there. It wasn't my story.
Yeah.
Where now I live a life I own. It's good and it's bad. So the hard days are mine, but so are the good ones. And now when it's good, it's fucking good. And it's okay. And if, you know, I get home sometimes and I look at my son who's 14 and I'll be like, Gordy, like how lucky are we to walk into this home? I don't take it for granted. It's the stupidest, simplest thing. And I have a cute little house in Westchester that I love.
Yeah.
But it's like at one point in my life, that home wasn't enough because I was looking for more and I wanted more. And I was missing the moments in the ambition or in the go get what you're supposed to. Who the fuck knows what I'm supposed to have?
Right.
What I'm supposed to have is happening in this moment. And I'm responsible for owning it and living it. It's mine. I don't exist for the life you have set for me. I live for the life I choose. And Why Wait Till Friday is all about owning your story. That's why there's a joy journal, because I want people to document their joy, to own it. It's not up to somebody else. Whether you're having a good day or not, like I could support you and love you, but you're not interfering in my process of being in my joy. And yes, life gets hard and days are shitty. And sometimes I stand in the suck. There is a sidewalk near my house that has the word suck in it. I guess when it was like wet, somebody wrote it. And sometimes I stand there and I'm like, I'm literally standing in my suck right now because right now it's hard.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that on that same day, I don't find the yellow. That doesn't mean that on that same day, I can't also find something to be grateful for. You know, like there's always stuff happening. There's always hard.
Yeah.
We become experts of our hard. We are masters of sitting in our shit.
Oh my God.
Like we literally soak in it and we smell and we know it sucks, but we're like experts of it.
Yep.
What about if we gave a little bit of that same energy to the good? I remember sitting with clients so many times in my life with patients and being like, they would come in, they would start with their heavy story. And again, courageous as hell. And I honor them. But then I look at them and I'd be like, I want 5 things positive about you. Give me the 5 strengths of your character. Silence.
Yeah.
How can we be better if we don't know our goodness? How can we feel joy if we don't know what fuels it?
Yeah.
Like we're waiting for the vacation. Like, how often do most of us go on vacation? Like, why can't we bring the vacation feel into our life at home? A little bit of that so that we're fueling that joy daily.
Yeah.
That's why I wait till Friday. And the items and the brand and the things you purchase on the website are tangible reminders. Like the bracelet. Sometimes I'm driving and I feel chaotic and I look at my bracelet and I'm like, put it in its simplest narrative. This is the simplicity bracelet. Put it in its simplest narrative. It's still there, but simplify it. And I can literally feel myself like,
with wedding planning, it's been oh my God, it's been a nightmare because we weren't going to do anything. And then last minute I was like, actually, I want to do something. So it's been like super like everything last minute. And the other day they called me because we were going to do our first look. We can't do it anymore. And I said to myself, you know what? This is the universe. We're going to do our first look somewhere else. And it's fine because the first look is about just me and him. And if from now on I get any calls about anything that's not going to work out for the wedding, I'm just going to say, thank you, universe, move on to the next.
And that's the intentionality part, right? If you can like create the intention of peace and create the intention of joy, then you're only disrupted when you choose to allow it to disrupt you. There are things in our lives that are worth the disruption, right? The people we love, the tangible, humans that may get sick, that we have to, those are battles we have to embrace. But there are other things that when we look at it, like I say from drone perspective, like if we're up there, is it really worth interrupting the place of joy?
Right.
Like I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And so Why Wait Till Friday gives you the mantra of taking a proactive approach to owning that joy, so that when stuff happens, it's not like you completely fall. Right. You still own that joy and you feel sad or you feel frustrated or you feel angry, but there's still this piece of you that you've been fueling daily that gets so strong that it almost like runs the course. It's like that movie from Disney, Inside Out. Right?
Okay.
Joy is it, right? And I didn't even know that was happening. And when I went to go see it, I'm like, holy shit, this is Why Wait Till Friday. Like, absolutely, that's it. We all have all these emotions, but what's driving force? The joy. So we want to make sure that our joy is the strongest element within us, so all the other stuff that comes and goes doesn't get stuck and outdo that joy.
I love that.
That's Why Wait Till Friday. And I'm so happy we didn't wait and did this.
I know. I can't thank you enough for being on here and talking and just sharing and being vulnerable. You mean the world to me.
Oh,
you really do. You're someone I talk about all the time. Again, I would have not made it through senior year without you by my side. And I'm so happy that life has still connected us. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for Why Wait Till Friday, because I think it's an incredible movement. And I'm just very lucky to have you in my life.
As I am to have you.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.